The world has changed. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air. Much that once was is lost, for none now live who remember it. Probably because they were bashed in the head once too many times with a rock, and in the next few weeks the question will be finally answered. Is less really more? Greetings survivors and friends, SHADOWFRAX here with a summary of the biggest patch to Rust for an era it seems, as the whole world goes primitive. Sort of. Depending on your definition of primitive. I mean, Facepunch seems to be equating it with medieval stuff, but that's probably mostly to help with flogging the new Medieval Pack DLC. But more on that in a moment. Anyway, this update brings a new optional game mode that servers can run, which according to the blog simulates a distant future where the knowledge of high-tech items has been lost, leaving the inhabitants of the island only able to make basic items, like complex electrical components and flashlight attachments. But seriously, a lot of stuff is unavailable permanently in this mode, and here's an overview. The only weapons allowed are melee, all the bows and crossbows, the spear gun, Eoka, bean cans and molotovs, flashlight attachments and shields. Face masks and metal chest plates are removed. Apart from that, all other armor is in, 50% less sulfur nodes will spawn, and the tax on tech trees has been doubled. You can still get jackhammers and chainsaws, but you'll only find them in loot. All rockets and C4 are removed, including the MLRS. Metal and armoured building grades are removed, along with armoured doors. You can still craft sheet metal doors, though. A bunch of monuments have vanished from this mode, namely the oil rigs, missile silo, excavator and underwater labs, along with the entire underground train system, which is now blocked up. Scientist NPCs have abandoned the island, apart from vendors, and the travelling vendor is still here, albeit with a new set of trades. There's no patrol heli, cargo ship or Bradley, and you'll find twice as many horses spawning in the wild, which is handy as all helicopters have been removed as well. It's not all stuff being ripped out though, and the team have been hard at work on a load of new items, all of which will also be available in the vanilla game mode, and here's a quick recap. You've got 4 new siege weapons which can be built outside and then either pushed, pulled or towed into position. Building involves popping down a chassis and then hitting it repeatedly with a hammer to add the required materials. First is the catapult, staple of all good medieval raids. It fires 3 new types of ammo: scattershot, which consists of multiple rocks that spread out, a firebomb which ignites on impact, spreading flames, and a propane explosive bomb designed to damage constructions. You can also launch players, both willing and otherwise, or even yourself if you fancy it, although there are much safer methods of travel. You have been warned. As well as flinging ammo at a target, the fire and propane bombs can also be deployed next to structures and ignited remotely. It's kind of a light blue touch paper and retreat to a safe distance operation, although they will do less damage to structures when used in this way. The siege tower can be pushed or pulled into position and allows for some vertical raiding with 3 drawbridge levels, which offer protection when closed, and as an aside, a drawbridge would be a fantastic new wallframe insert if you ask me. Hint hint, nudge nudge. Each siege tower can also have a door placed at the bottom by players for added rear entrance security, which is always handy. The battering ram's the only siege weapon which can be moved into place under its own power. It's very slow and not the stealthiest method, but it comes equipped with a reinforced arm to destroy wood and stone constructions, has a ramp at the back and enough room inside for a small zerg to deploy once a hole has been made. Please note the arm will take damage with each strike and needs repairing with high qual to stay operational. Lastly, there's a ballista, the smallest siege weapon and designed for long-range combat, which again can be towed or pushed around and fires 4 new specialist bolts, including Pitchfork, which has a large impact area, Piercer bolts for penetrating armoured vehicles, Hammerhead for dealing damage to doors, and Incendiary, which ignites on impact and spreads flames. You can also build a stationary version of the ballista which can be deployed on your base as a defensive weapon. Oh, and as mentioned last week, bows can now be added to turrets. Shields are a new item that can be used with a variety of single-handed weapons and tools. Simply equip it in your back slot and it'll be whipped out whenever you're holding something compatible. The right mouse button's used to hold the shield up, which means no throwing or ADS while holding one, and no sprinting whilst it's raised. You can also only hold it up for 4 seconds at a time before getting tired, presumably. There are only 3 shields available now. There was a 4th round metal one, but it seems to have been scrapped, and each one absorbs a different amount of incoming damage. As they block damage damage, their durability will decrease, and once broken, they become unequipped. Also, please note that although when not in use they are on your back, you are not a ninja turtle and they don't block any damage in this mode. Offensively, there's a new weapon in your arsenal this month, available in both primitive and normal game modes, the 4-shot mini crossbow, which is a fresh take on the Crossy with 4 shots in a rotating barrel, at the cost of some damage and range, and which I imagine took quite a bit of work to animate. Horses get a gigantic update in this patch, as you're going to be relying on them a lot more in primitive. Not only can they be hitched up to tow the catapult, siege tower and ballista, but you'll find it a lot easier to use them on all types of terrain and monuments. They have all new movement mechanics, they'll avoid trees automatically when galloping through forests, and they can swim across bodies of water now, you can pull them when leading, they give extra comfort when in proximity of a fire, and you can now slam on the handbrake with control when galloping to perform a skid. In addition to this, their impact on server performance has been massively improved. To run the primitive game mode on your server, simply use the parameter server.gamemode_primitive and the rest should follow. Interestingly, although there's no era progression in this mode, if you type era into the console, you'll see there are several others mentioned. So will this potentially be expanded on in future? I guess it's all going to depend on whether this one takes off or flops horribly. Time will tell. Now, you should never let a good patch go to waste, and so naturally there's a DLC to go with this one, but a welcome one, which includes a knight armor skin set that can be applied to the coffee can helmet, road sign jacket and kilt with the same stats. You'll also get a medieval barricade, which is a reskin for the barbed wooden one and requires that blueprint to craft. There's the medieval assault rifle, not a phrase you hear that often, but which is definitely a kingly weapon, a medieval large wooden box skin, highly detailed and thematic this one, and a set of medieval sheet metal door skins, both single and double. Not too shabby, if you ask me. But let me know what you think to this game mode and new stuff down below, please. I do love reading your deep and meaningful insights. There's a lot of other stuff this month though, so to summarize that, temporary ragdolling's been added for when players hit things at speed on horses and bikes, plus players can also be ejected from the saddle of a horse if it's had too much air or slid too far, with horses also ragdolling at that point. However, there has been a rebalance to bike impacts to make it less likely to die from hitting obstacles. A new social integration layer has been added this month, which you can find here, and which lets you DM friends in Steam and Discord, invite and add friends, all without having to alt-tab out or anything. This is all subject to change, as with everything, so please give feedback to Facepunch if there's anything you'd like improved. In quality of life, there have been a bunch of changes, including being able to pick up sleeping bags that are within TC range, the ability to reskin IO deployables without having to completely disconnect them, phones can now have names up to 30 characters long, pumpkins won't roll forever when dropped, and backpacks and shields can now be deployed onto weapon racks. In addition, NVIDIA DLAA was meant to have been added to the options menu, but was removed last night along with the DLSS options in a hotfix due to crashing AMD users, and will be re-added as soon as a fix becomes available. There's a stack button in the F1 item menu now to give you a stack of that item, if you're an admin of course. Industrial lights have been merged into a single item, with red and green versions now being a skin you can change with the spray can. And there are also a number of new admin commands which you can find listed in the improvement section at the bottom of the latest dev blog, including one for teleporting an entire team to your position and clearing all trees in a radius. I'll leave you to check those all out. Talking of admins, the admin ESP system works in first-person spectate now, and you can read all about it here on the dev blog. There's a new round of Twitch drops live now until February 16th, which you can see here, and for those to whom it may concern, there's a big write-up on the dev blog, Re-Server Profiler, Linux and reduced overhead, which is probably something you'll want to read during a quiet hour on the toilet or something. There's also a 48-hour half-price flash sale on Rust and all DLCs, if you're quick. Oh, and the Rust collab with Welly Pets is live, finally, with an in-game frog boot helmet for anyone who buys a pair of the real thing. And talking of which, I might just be doing a little related giveaway soon. So stay tuned for that, and await my instructions. To the future now, and in the commits, some stuff is happening. First of all, in the armor slots branch, as mentioned before, armor slots are coming in with a random number appearing on crafted items, and these will be fillable with different inserts to add upgrades. At the moment, it appears these will include wood, asbestos, and lead. Cooking 2.0 is a big body of work, promising a smorgasbord of new features, such as pies, which it appears will be throwable. Wait for me to have my mouth open, please. New meat models, a single plant bot, triangle planter, chicken coop, and eggs, plus a new cooking workbench, among other things. More news on when this will be arriving when I get it. As mentioned last week, there's a new item ownership system being worked on. As you might remember, if you're old enough, this was originally something that was introduced in the XP system years ago and served a purpose in gaining new XP when people used items you crafted. I'm not saying that's the plan here. It seems like it's purely informational this time round, but we'll see exactly what comes out of it soon. The jungle biome is getting more work, mainly to the animals that will be inhabiting it this week, such as snakes, crocs, and tigers, with each having its own complex behaviour patterns, it seems. And lastly, this intriguing branch is getting a few commits this week, entitled Outbreak Scientist, with random parts? Interesting. I'll bring you everything I find out about this when I find it out. Right, you are up to date, and I'll give you more Rusty Nuggets next week, so stay tuned. Leave a like and a sub and a comment below, follow me on all my socials, and if you'd like, you can support my efforts here via YouTube memberships and Patreon. Links are all below. I shall catch you all soon, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio. Like complex electrical components and flashlight attachments,